What's up, everybody? Welcome to the inaugural show of Local Sports Tonight with Ivan Vargas. Let me go ahead and switch that up right away. We're experimenting in the back. But anyway, welcome to the show. I'm glad you could be here. Wanted to go ahead and venture off a little bit on my own, talking straight Chicago sports. And I'm glad you could join me. I got a couple of good guests lined up for tonight. We're going to be talking, this abysmal start to the summer. I guess you could call it the start. It's about halfway through with our Chicago baseball teams. The Hawks just drafted a defenseman from Michigan State. It's a lot of good stuff tonight. We're going to be talking all Chicago sports. Glad you could make it. Well, let me go ahead and bring these guys out. Without further ado, I got my guy, Big Z, Jose Zuazo from True Chicago Sports Fans Podcast at 606 Media. Let's bring him out here. Jose, what is up, brother? How are you?
What's up, brother? A pleasure to be on your inaugural show, man. I am honored and flattered, bro. This is awesome. I'm glad you are
flattering you. Look at this. Look at this. Yeah. Flattering Jose. I'm glad you're flattered, dude. I appreciate it. Well, thanks for being here. Thanks for being here. Let's go ahead and bring our other guy out. I love him. You love him. If you guys watch TTNL, he's the Bears nerd, the stat guy, Matt Carstensen. Cars, thank you for being here, bro. Love to see you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Again, I kind of take the same thing. Anytime I can talk sports without making my wife want to murder me because she's tired of hearing about sports all the time, I'm definitely not going to miss the opportunity. And no one can interrupt me here, so it's much better off.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, honestly, my wife's like, "You're gonna really do another show right now?" I'm like, well, I haven't been talking. You know what I'm saying? Like, I haven't been out there speaking my mind, and I feel like, obviously, I'm TTNL is TTNL. I'll always be there. Right? Another Bear show will still be on. It's not like it's moving anywhere, going anywhere. But this is something that I just really wanted to do and was just like, screw it. Let me go throw it together, even if it's, slapped together. Let me get out there and start talking about all Chicago sports. And that's why I brought you guys on, because I know, Matt, you have a bunch of strong opinions about last night's draft. You also have Bear opinion. That's why we're bringing you out here. But you're also a White Sox fan, and I know you and Jose share that. At least have that in common. So you guys have this. You guys have a bond, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna put Sox fan and Sox fan together, and I'm gonna kind of a little bit relish what's going on, but really I'm kind of focused on my own debacle on the north side. So yes, it was planned, but I truly feel that it's going to be a great topic. Sox Cubs.
I mean, you basically have the normal attendance of a White Sox game here on the podcast with you right now with how the season is going. So 2 people, that sounds about right. So
that's Steve Stone and the other guy. Yeah, I don't want to say his name.
That's it.
Yeah, he's just
nobody else.
He's just kind of frustrating. That guy. He's a little bit much, I would say. Honestly, what would he start? Didn't he start a beef with some of the radio guys at like ESPN 1000 and 670 Sports?
Yeah.
Or was it 670? Okay. So yeah, a little soft there in the booth. I mean, next to Stoney. Stoney is just love him. But let's go ahead and talk baseball. Before we go and dive into some of the extracurriculars, let's talk baseball wise. I'll start off with the Sox, right? Because I know my Cubs. I want to beat up my Cubs because I am going to beat up the Cubs. It's not going to be a one-sided affair here. Let's start out with the Sox. We know what they were going to be coming in. Chris Getz, new general manager. They keep Pedro Grifol. They have, a couple of pieces that are, in my opinion, strictly are they say they're forbidden, but I'm like, this is your greatest asset, like trade assets that can probably put you back on track faster than you think. I just don't know if they're going to have the balls to move them, and that's one in Crochet and the other in Robert. How do you guys feel overall Pedro Grifol? We'll start with him. How do you feel Pedro Grifol has done as a manager up to this point? Even though, I'll give him the caveat of you left him with shit and he's kind of have to, fight through it. But regardless of that, true opinion, we'll start with you, Cars.
I want La Russa back, and that is an awful statement to make. Is how excited I was to get rid of him. Um, it's just awful all the way around. I was excited when you heard all the stuff from Kansas City of him coming over there as the bench coach and how he could reach players.
Mhm.
And I don't know about you, but the one thing he has not done is reach any of these players. He's pissed all of them off. He's alienated so many. I I I just don't know. I just don't know what he's done that I could say is positive at all for this franchise.
I don't understand why we continue to get coaches, quote unquote coaches, that have never actually done the job. Ron Ventura. Now we got, Grafal, who's never actually coached. He's been in all parts of the organization for the Kansas City Royals, but he's never coached. And then you bring him over here in his first press conference. We're going to play hard. We're going to do all these great things, this small ball, and we're going to do, everything that they were not doing. And none of those things have actually happened. You have his rookie catcher, contradicting him because he's sticking up for the pitcher. And, you got the manager, throwing the pitchers under the bus. He's literally alienated, just like you said, everybody on that team. And you now have Luis Roberts sitting at the top of the bench on the seat, just like Abreu was when he was frustrated before he left. There's this has got to be the worst thing that's ever happened to me. It's disgusting to have such good players on here, and I really don't think on paper they're that bad of a team. You look at FAM, you look
They
at
shouldn't be. You're right.
No, they shouldn't be. No, and I really think it comes down to the organization from the top all the way down to the coaching, the atmosphere, the there's no team. Everybody's an individual, and you heard the stories of, guys were sleeping in the bullpen, and these guys were a click over here, and these guys were a click over here, and no one got along. When they didn't get along, they won 90 games. Now it's supposed to be kumbaya and family, and we're not doing anything. So it literally starts from the top. And Chris Getz that's more nepotism higher than anything. He's gonna turn the rebuild really quick because he knows the organization. He didn't do anything with the players that were drafted.
He was the director of player development, right? What players did we develop?
Not one, because all of them were traded over here from other organizations. So we didn't develop anybody. So again, you have those two, and he's also a Kansas City employee. And it's just sickening that we keep reaching into Kansas City, who, besides the couple World Series runs, but those players are not coming over. We're not getting big time free agents. We're not getting big time coaches. You could have went on and got Bruce Bochy, and what does he do? He wins the World Series in Texas. So the White Sox had opportunities to right the ship. They just don't.
I think if you look at it, though, and it speaks to the bigger thing, when we talk Chicago sports, we have throughout all Chicago some of the worst ownership that you can deal with. And that even continues on to your Cubs, who after winning that World Series, it has all been more about how do we make money, how do we profit over that, than put on a winning team. And you've got Reinsdorf, who has ruined two of my beloved franchises at this state. And so many of these are you fail upwards, when it was Garpax and the Bulls and Getz here and Kenny was awful. Kenny was terrible. I think we knew for 4 years he was going to pay whatever he could to get Adam done. We knew it was going to happen. We couldn't understand it. And the second he did, we're he's exactly what we thought he was. Not worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it kills me that these beloved franchises of ours just have such terrible ownership that it's year in, year out. Cubs should have had higher expectations. They should have performed. They didn't, because it's not an emphasis. The emphasis is on money and getting new stadiums, and all these different things has nothing to do with putting a great product on the field.
Mm-hmm. And I agree. And it's that common denominator in both situations on the west side and on the south side is the owner. And I feel like I don't see this man ever breaking free from his franchise. I think he has too much pride, and he's just got death, and no pun intended, he's got a death grip on both franchises. There's no way you have to drag him out of hell to give up his franchises. But for me, if you can just convince him to allow, because I feel like he's just more involved than anybody's given off. You know what I'm saying? Especially with the baseball side. If you could find a way to get him to retire, if Michael could find a way to say, hey, Dad, go this way, I think you'd be better off. But regardless of that, the White Sox,
Michael runs the Bulls. Sorry, Ivan.
No. But what I'm just saying is,
the Bulls.
But period. Michael just tell him to go. Period. Like, don't run the Bulls or the Sox. Like, stay away. Like I don't feel like
he's still involved too much, though.
Exactly. I feel like he's just involved too much, and you already know how he feels about the Bulls. The Bulls are the Bulls are the bastard child that he picked up off the street and happened to hit gold with. You know what I'm saying? What's Shirley Temple? You know what I mean? It's Annie. That's what he got. That's what he got out of the Bulls. He discovered her off the street, picked him up off the trash heap, got lucky. And now it just seems like to me that this guy with the beloved White Sox, we'll get back to the Sox, it's his way or the highway. It was always his dream. It was always his dream team. How do you convince a man to step back from that? I don't know how to address it. I'm not the guy to figure it out, but to me, Ryan Zerbst needs to go away. Yeah,
it's the Blackhawks. It's he's got to go away in unfortunate circumstances for that to happen, because there's no excuse that we sit here in 2024 and the largest contract in free agency the White Sox have ever given is for Andrew Benintendi at 5 years and $75 million. For a franchise that is as valued as much as they are, that gets revenue sharing, that sits in a major market, that they have proven, hey, if you put a good product on the field, fans will watch, fans will come. But if you sit down and you ruin Tim Anderson and you ruin Eloy and you've destroyed, Bob's confidence, and Abreu can't wait to leave. Look at how packed that stadium was for that shortened season playoff run, right? And how excited everybody was and how everybody turned out. And this guy sits down and blames the fans for not believing. You have lost. How many times have we made the playoffs in my life? Not that many as a White Sox fan. Really not that many. Yeah.
3.
So what are we doing?
It's very sad, because I was at the game against the Dodgers, and I was talking on my show, and I said I'm wearing my Ohtani jersey and I'm gonna wear my White Sox hat, and everyone's giving me crap on, you got to choose a team. I'm like, no, I don't. I really don't. I'm gonna cheer a historic franchise that actually spends money and goes for broke and gets the best players. I still have my allegiance to my Chicago team. I'm gonna enjoy it. There was over 36,000 fans for Mexican Heritage Night. There was over 28,000 for Polish Night the night before. If that doesn't tell you how to market this team, I don't know. I know it's Brooks Boyer, I believe, that's in charge of marketing. I don't know what kind of slap in the face you need, that you need to say, hey, you know what? We have the largest Polish community outside of Poland, and we have the second largest Mexican community in the United States, and we're not marketing to these people. These are our people. That's how you fill a stadium when a team sucks. You market to the fans. That's what you have to do. We're not doing that. They do it once or twice a year.
You market you put out a milkshake. You know what I'm saying?
But you also need to have a marquee.
I'm intolerant.
Yeah.
That is bravo, because that is again 2024 in a nutshell, right? Oh, right. I can't, my gluten allergy. I can't go to that night. But I mean, yeah, you're absolutely right. But you need a marquee player. You need a player that you have to be that draw. And Robert should be the guy. He absolutely should. Yep. But when you destroy his hope and his dream and you suck the fun out of it, just like you did with Tim Anderson, and it was one of these people that people wanted to come see, even if you do those things, again, what am I going to go watch? Andrew Vaughn strike out 4 times. They don't have a single player over 40 RBIs on this team. They've got like one player with double-digit home runs. It's a joke now that they're trying to get their catcher as the all-star representative, and that's how we're trying to embarrass everybody. Like, when you're at that level, this was growing up. This was the Pittsburgh Pirates after Bonds and Bonilla left, and the team was such dog shit. And they're like, well, we got to find one. Let's just make it the worst player on the team and get everybody to vote for that guy and get him in the all-star game. That's where you are.
I don't understand how he still has a job. Batting 076, he can't catch, he can't defend, he can't call it
frame. Yeah,
he can't frame. That's what we got him for framing. He can't do anything. At least the Cubs got rid of their guy. They're like, oh, you really suck. We're gonna DFA you. And the White Sox is just like hitting yourself and banging your head against the wall and thinking you're gonna get through it. It just makes no sense.
How often does Corey Lee? I know you got the young guy coming up. Yeah, how often does Corey Lee play? Day to day, like is he now starting to take over and overcome that number one spot, or are they still kind of like holding him back and letting him learn off the bench type of deal?
I really think that Pedro's just picks a name out of the hat, because there's days that Corey Lee catches for Crochet, and there's times it's just so frustrating because he didn't want to. He does like, I don't want to have a pitcher to have their own personal catcher. At the end of the day, if the pitcher wants their own catcher, you do that if there's a performance enhancement to it. If this guy can call me and knows how I pitch and knows how to calm me down, yeah, that's what you do. That's what Rossi was. He was a personal catcher. Look how well he did for his career. It's simple. You look at the numbers. This guy catches. He's younger. He can frame. He can actually fucking hit the ball. Put the kid in every day. What do we have to lose? 076. Ivan, you can go up there and stick the bat out in the middle of the plate and get more than 076.
Probably. I mean, you're talking about a team 83 games in that is averaging 3 runs a game of offense. 3, like that's unheard of. And so yeah, you're gonna if you can't bat, you absolutely need to be able to help in pitching. And guess what? No team, I think, has given up more runs than we have. Or maybe the Rockies, I think, are the only team that have given up more runs than we have.
The Rockies, yeah.
It's the worst differential in all of sports. It comes to like, what's your identity? And your identity is finding failures and promoting them. And that is the White Sox identity for, sadly, post the Big Hurt era. It's pretty much finding a failure and promoting them.
Let me ask you this: which, and I mentioned the 2 names before, the 2 big names, Crochet and Robert. Which, if any, or both, do you think can be on the move legitimately? And I know they say what they have that they want to say, but you see guys like Eloy not panning out. Robert has these health issues as well. So would it be on one of your guys' mind to say, hey, let's jump on this now, because we don't know how healthy he'll be, even though he's built like a Greek god. He still has the Achilles, he still has the weak ankles. If you want to take it that, for lack of a better expression, he has weak ankles, which is, not to say anything about his ankles, he's just constantly hurt. I would say, for me, it would be Robert. What do you guys say? Which guy do you think could be on the move, Crochet or Robert? Jose?
For me, it's got to be Robert. The problem is it's going to be the question of, can he stay healthy? It's going to be the question for the other teams. He's a Silver Slugger, Gold Glove award winner. He's got an all-star under his cap. Excuse me. It's just his injuries. He just can't stay on the field. He's making $8.3 million. Super cheap for a power hitter. The problem is that he has no protection around him. There's no one that can protect him, so they can't walk him if he gets hot. He's always been told that he's a 5'6" tool player. You can't stay healthy. You've got no protection. You've got no management. You've got no coaches that help you. So he's kind of stuck. So giving him a fresh start somewhere else, whether it be with the Orioles or Atlanta or one of these teams, major teams that's losing an outfielder, you've got to make the trade. On the other side, I don't know how good Chris Getz is as getting a good deal. He's not
That's
Rick Hahn. Rick Hahn was
terrifying.
very good about maximizing his return. Look what he got for Adam Eaton, and look at Lopez right now with Atlanta with one of the lowest ERAs. He's literally challenging Greg Maddox's record. It's crazy. For me, Crochet is your center stone, your building block for the rest. I say build around pitching that you're grooming up to come in. The kids in sub double A are doing very well with the pitching staff down there. Bring those kids up all together. It'll be like the 92, 93 White Sox where you brought in Alex Fernandez and all these kids up. And then you bring a veteran or two, Jack McDowell in there. You solidify your pitching staff and then start making moves to put some actual bats on the field.
No, I'm with you because my thing is I think that Robert is eventually going to be kind of the next Adolis Garcia from Texas, where later in life he's going to figure this stuff out and it's going to look much better. He's just, to your point, he's never developed. He looked great defensively coming up. That's still not necessarily as good. It still has never panned out. There's not a single last year hitting these bombs early. You kind of felt like he might get into it, and they've just done that. And my concern is going to be, I think you're right. You focus on pitching whenever you can. Pitching is going to get you the farthest. My biggest concern is in 2 years, he's going to be like, what was the Cub guy that went to Kansas City whose name I'm blanking on? Soto? No.
Velasquez?
No, it was a guy it was very similar. Came up from the Dominican, couldn't stay healthy. They ended up trading him when the Kansas City Royals won the World Series. He was the big bat. I'll remember the name.
Soler.
Soler. Jorge Soler. That's
yeah.
gonna be kind of what I think he is, that if he can stay healthy, and teams will still bet on that because that bat can be so big. Thank you. Yeah. And you can get more, but I'm not getting rid of pitching at all.
Nope.
You don't trade. You trade batters for pitchers. You do not trade pitchers for batters. That's kind of the biggest stance that I've got.
Yeah, and for me, it's going to be Robert as well. Crochet's too young. He throws too hard. It's something that you already have in hand. It's a win in hand, right? It's a potential win in hand, where Robert, with the questions like we've just addressed, it's a question mark with him every time every time there's an explosive play where he has to boom, take off, sprint 50, 60 yards to go make a play. You're worried he's going to tweak a hamstring, or out of the box, he's going to go ahead and pull up lame with something else. So Robert, we all agree it's a consensus. Keep Crochet. White Sox, I feel like, to wrap things up on them, they're the team right now, I feel like, that has nothing to lose, and they can potentially be like, screw it, I'll make something exciting, play a little Grinch here and there, late in the season, right? Screw somebody's wild card run up or something like that. To whereas, the Cubs, as we transition into my team, the Cubs had all the expectation in the world. And
especially after you go get the manager, right?
Especially after $60 million to go get the manager from your rival, which, to be honest, is becoming your arch rival. I feel like, and granted, there'll always be the Cubs-Cardinals rivalry, but right now, with the way the Brewers have been playing and the way the Cardinals haven't been playing as well, the Cubs and the Brewers, it's getting hot. It's getting volatile. You feel it in the stands. I was in Milwaukee this season. I plan on going to one. Or actually, I believe I was at one. I also was at one at Wrigley. It's the same thing. You have people that are very excited and are very pumped up in Milwaukee because they truly feel like they were betrayed. Like if somebody punched their mom in the face, that's kind of somebody, their dog, that's how they feel. Like somebody kidnapped their dog and is holding it for ransom, and they're just pissed. They're just angry as shit, and they have every right to be. And who would have thought they would go ahead and take this jump? Now, getting to the Cubs, right? You get the manager. what were you going to do with the manager, right? What were you going to do for the manager? Excuse me. What were you going to do for the manager? That was my whole. You got the manager. You paid $60 million. What were you going to do for the manager? I was eager to see, and we got nothing. So I'm like, okay, maybe they're going to go ahead and bring up the young guys, like you alluded to earlier. You know, the 92 White, or what was it, 93 White Sox? You bring up young guys. You start playing them. You get going. Bring up the Owen Caseys. Bring up the Matt Shaws. Start bringing up guys that people want to see that are going to be the future of your team, because as of right now, you see guys like Wisdom. You see guys like Madrigal, Master Brony. And I'm only echoing what Cubs fans have been saying all season long, even, you know, before the season started. Where are we going to find that extra help, right? You're starting. You have questions with the starters, but I feel like the starters can be good enough. But then there's questions about the bench. There's questions about your relief pitching. And it's still the same issues that you were having last season that cost you a playoff run. It's the same issue. So my question to you guys is right now, before we go a little bit deeper, because the Cubs just blew another lead, how do you feel Jed's job? How do you feel the security of Jed's job is? Where do you think Jed sits with the Cubs as of right now? Because for me, it's like, okay, Jed Carter, what are you doing right now? Are you embarrassed, or are you going to start bringing up these young guys? Like, what is the plan here? Just sit on our ass, play it out, and then hopefully we could go ahead and make a big splash next year? I don't like that idea. You have a slogan called, you have to see it. Well, I see shit on the baseball field, game in and game out. I see a shitty bullpen, and like I just said, top of the 5th inning in Milwaukee, get another lead busted up. I don't know if the starter's still in, if Tyone's still in or not, but you're giving up leads. You're giving up leads, and you have this offense that can start out hot and then just shuts down on you throughout the day. How do you guys feel the jobs of Carter Hawkins and Jed Hoyer are right now? Cars, I want to hear you first.
So how do I feel they are? I feel
where do you feel?
No. I'm going to say, like, how secure do I think they are?
Yeah.
Very. How secure should they be? Not at all. But it's business. If you look around, stadium's still full. People are still around. That's all the ownership right now cares about. But this was a team that went into the offseason, and had money to spend, but just, again, they kind of go in with the T-Rex arms, like, I can't quite reach the wallet. I can't, let's find what we can get in the discount bin. Can you imagine how bad this team would be if Shota didn't start off as hot as he did? Mm-hmm. There isn't a whole lot right now to bet. Morel is fun. He's betting almost sub 200. Mm-hmm. Bellinger has gone right back to the way that he was. Swanson has been a complete letdown offensively this year. It goes back to the whole thing of, who do you build around? Who is your marquee player right now? And it's still, right now, it's Shota. And that's your marquee player. And that's why there shouldn't be any sort of job security. But there is. That's my feel, at least.
No, I believe you. Jose?
Well, first of all, who the hell's Hawkins? Because you never hear him talk. You never see him in front of the press. He's kind of like with the Bulls. You're like, oh, Arturis, we know that guy. But who's actually the general manager? We don't know.
Yeah.
It's like they're robots. We don't know. Hey, for that case, sign me up. I'll be a general manager in just name, and I'll just stay in my office, just like George Costanza. I'll stay underneath the office and and eat my Snickers with a fork and knife. And that's the job I want. I mean, come on. I'm looking what's you're talking about job security. Cubs in March 1-2. Cubs in April 17-10. They were super hot, darlings of MLB. Cubs in May 10-18. Cubs in June 10-14. 2 months of really bad baseball. You have players that we just talked about. We had the signings of Shota. Bellinger came back. Everybody wanted Belly back. Belly's up and down his entire career. Swanson is adequate at most. You know, he's never been a power hitter. If you look at his numbers, he's never been a power hitter. He's, you know, you're Jason Hayward now. That's what he is.
Oh, that's a great comp. Great
overpaid, plays great defense, good, you know, give you a good speech in the locker room. That's what he'll do for you, you know. But at the same time, your third base, Morel should not be playing third base. I love the kid, but he shouldn't be playing there. You really Izuki? Is it Izuki? Is that his name?
No. Suzuki.
Seiya Suzuki, right. He had a good hot month, and he's been cooled off. He's probably dealing with some kind of injury still.
Yeah, he had that rib injury.
Yeah, and that lingers.
Yeah.
That lingers, and he's a really good player. But after that, is there anybody that's scary on this team that you're like, oh, I gotta walk that guy because he's gonna hit a home run?
No.
Okay, so they didn't do anything this offseason. Mm-hmm. They got one pitcher, and it was a steal because the Dodgers overpaid for the pitcher they got, and you got the better pitcher for a lot less money. So you stole that. Great. But you didn't address the need from the year before and the year before that, which was the bullpen.
Period.
Mm-hmm.
So it's simple as that. They're not going anywhere. Jed's not going anywhere. Let's just be honest. They're not going to do anything. The ballpark is full. They're making hand over fist. We're worried about, you know, we overextended ourselves with building all these cool things and buying all this property, and we had no money and we couldn't buy free agents. It's been 3 years. I'm pretty sure you made your money back and some. Where's that money on the field? I want that money on the field. You're 8th or 9th or 10th in payroll, and you're the 3rd or 4th worst team in MLB. That should call for a hot seat. I'm sorry.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. And even with, like, I even have a question about the way that they brought in Craig Counsell. None of his own coaches, right? It's just Craig. They solely brought in Craig. It was like, Craig, boop, plug it into to David Ross's staff.
So dumb. So dumb.
They don't have Craig Counsell type players, clearly, because they're still trying to, you know, figure out if Almonte's worth it, or this guy can do it, or, you know, Brewer or whoever. It's almost as if they pulled the Chicago Bears and did shit backwards type of work. You know, it's like, hey, let's go ahead and hire the head coach, then the GM, and then it's just kind of not the right process that I would have thought would happen. And I didn't really realize that he didn't have his own coaching staff in place until pretty much the start of the season. And that's when I'm like, wait a minute, is this going to cause issues? And granted, I know that the Cubs coaching staff has been pretty decent. You know, the hitting coach, Hadavi's been good as a pitching coach. Maley, the hitting coach, Maley, they've been good, but they're not his guys. So
but they're also not getting the stuff to work with. It comes over the top. It's much like our White Sox. There's only so much molding you can do when your clay is a piece of shit, right? Like, it's not going to hold form. It's not going to do any of that stuff. And to me, it's harder on Counsell to blame him for this, because it's not like the players are still together. They still care. But what ended up happening was like bad stock market. They bought high on everybody. And I think your Jason Hayward comp is kind of the perfect stay for it. Like, we struck out on everybody. Who's the last big name that fans are going to recognize? Dansby. Let's go do it. We'll overpay and we'll get people excited. I think the Counsell hire itself was just simply, I remember when all my Cub fan buddies, the second it happened, everyone was like, this is the season now. Now we're going to go do it. Here it is. There were never the pieces. There never were the pieces. And I just feel like both front offices have done a tremendous job of lying to all of our fans. Like, we're ready to go. And you kind of peel back the roster and you go, no, you're not. You are absolutely not. Stop lying to me.
It's like the Cubs were a 747 with a huge gaping hole on one side, and they hired Craig Counsell. Like, here's some duct tape and a piece of styrofoam. Make it work.
Here's a Gorilla Glue from 1983. I think it's got a little bit more squeeze left into it.
Squeeze a little bit out.
Like the end of the toothpaste.
Yeah, it's really not Council's fault. I mean, they hired him because he brought out the most out of players who are not all-stars in Milwaukee, and that's what they wanted. But they didn't bring, like you said, the staff over. His bench coach was his coach in Notre Dame. He also coached in Texas. He had, the success. So when he took over, he's like, all right, we're just going to change this, and this. He's been coaching for like 40, 50 years. He knows exactly what he's doing. Mm-hmm. And look at that team go. He had small, minor tweaks. They lost 3 major players, and they're, 10 games over the Cubs?
Yep.
That's unheard of. You lose 3 all-stars, and you're 10 games over.
Again, look at the Brewers. They don't have that, oh my God pitcher. They don't have that oh my God player, right? Same thing. But the overall talent is really there. The Cubs have been infatuated with Ian Happ for years. Mm-hmm. And I think he's kind of the embodiment of the Jed Hoyer thing, where it's like he hits 20 home runs. He hits 220, but he hits 20 home runs, but he hits 220. Like, what are we doing here?
For that, you could have kept Schwarber. Yeah, Schwarber hits 40 home runs and hits 200.
And that's kind of the thing is, like, you went ahead and you get rid of Kyle Schwarber pretty much for literally for nothing.
It was
$10 million. Yeah, $8 million. 10. That's peanuts compared to what he is now. Yeah. But also, it's to Ian Happ's credit, he is a Gold Glover out there. But I felt like the bat and the plate presence of Kyle Schwarber, and you could deal with the mistake or two, but I felt like Kyle had made himself into a pretty much a not a top quality, not even a middle of the pack, but it was a serviceable type of outfielder, right? He's not going to go make some fancy plays, but he isn't going to screw you over on a play that he knows that he can't make, right? And he also had a cannon of an arm, so he would be able to throw somebody out. But he'd also go ahead and hit 40 fucking home runs for you. And I'm talking before they added the DH to the NL. Like, just imagine if he was sitting here and all he had to do was fucking hit. Like, oh my God.
And what was credible about him was always, he might hit 200, but his on-base percentage was still 330, 340, right? Like, this year, he's hitting a little bit better. Like, he's hitting, I think, 250 right now, but his on-base percentage is like 360, 370, somewhere in that range. Like, that's insane for somebody. You don't have guys on the Cubs that walk. You don't have guys that do the little things, work pitch counts, force a pitcher to see more. Like, you've got all these guys that are like, I'm swinging first thing. Let's go. It's really hard to, Cubs lose because the other players work the pitchers and they know to get to the bullpen. Let's be honest. Bullpens across Major League Baseball are terrible. Just in general. Mm-hmm. You might have a closer, but getting to that closer is kind of like going to my daughter at 10 years old and be like, take 2 innings. Just try not to give up 7 before you go ahead and do it. And the Cubs just don't chase starters. They you just don't see it happening. And it's wild to think of it in that regard.
No, I completely agree. The offense, and here I'll read it off to you. I had it. The offense just lack thereof. Hits, you're 22nd in hits, you're 18th in runs. Doubles, you're 25th. Triples, you're at 6, but there's like a 8 or 7 way tie. I can't remember now. Home runs, you have 78. That's 21st in the league. RBIs, 316. That's 19th, and your batting average is 25th best in the league. That is not a winning ball club.
Nope.
It doesn't sound like they and don't even. We were talking about the bullpen. I haven't even started about the was it 19 blown saves? Mm-hmm. 19 blown saves by the bullpen. It's hard, and I don't think it's necessarily saves. It's pretty much holds or they blown leads. Like you've blown leads in 19 games, late in most of them late in the game.
7th, 8th inning,
7th or 8th inning, you're blowing these leads. how how detrimental is that to the psyche and the emotion of the clubhouse? Now, I don't think guys are pointing fingers as of yet, but with the struggle right now, I think the Cubs are gonna really have to look in and find out what team they want to be. And it's going to be weird because you got a new guy at manager, and you're kind of like, it's still you're learning who he is, right? You had a spring training, yeah, but you just lost a guy that you've been with that has been, fighting for some of these guys like Morrell, like a guy like, even Patrick Wisdom, even though I think he should be off the team. I think this is the time where the Cubs need to start gelling and really focus in on who they are as players and who they are as a ball club. And it's weird to say because I felt like this team was going to take a step, and then you just see, like Cars, you said, you just see all the holes, and you see the team for what it is when you take a step back, and it's very frustrating. Let's go ahead and move on. Yeah, no, go ahead, Cars.
If tie it back to our beloved Bears, right? Mm-hmm. The way I look at it now is the rivalry for the Bears should be the Packers, but it's the Lions, and the Lions are kicking our ass right now. When it comes to the Cubs, the rivalry should be the Cardinals, but the Brewers are kicking their ass right now, right? And so it's these franchises that haven't been great. Milwaukee obviously recently has, but most of my life growing up, no one was afraid of the Milwaukee Brewers. Like it wasn't a whole lot there. And now these teams in these smaller markets are eating us for lunch because they're developing players, they're spending the right way. They're getting the manager at the appropriate time when they're like, hey, we're ready to win. Let's go get the manager, instead of the Cubs going, let's go get the manager and then let's build everything up. You don't have that patience. And so all of our teams have just been like, this is who we should compete with, but we have been so bad. We've got to take the second tier team to compete with, and we can't beat them either. And it's depressing as hell.
It really is. And I just wanted to ask a question before we jump off the Cubs. Are they going to be sellers or are they going to be buyers?
My guess is they're going to stand pat, because I think their idea, their thing is we can't look bad. Like them selling, it looks bad.
Oh yeah.
It looks really bad. I think that they're going to allow Craig the year, right? Find out what you want, what you need, and then they're going to try to go ahead and accommodate him with such. I would fucking hope, because having to go through another season or off season like we did, where it's like, hey, we're just, we have it. It's, we have everything in house. Everything is ready in house. And you could clearly see that you need help, that you need a big bet. You need a Pete Alonso. You need a Juan Soto. You need a big time pitcher. Like, these are the things. And don't get me wrong, the pitching staff has been amazing. Imanaga, and we haven't even talked about him. He has been nothing but spectacular. Yeah. This season. And I think I've seen like 4 of his games that he started. He on fire. He's energetic. It's fun to watch. The pitching staff has been solid, but my point is, you don't have a guy that's going to shut the shit down when it gets bad. When you have a 3-4 game skid, boom, here goes your stopper right there. Let's put an end to that, and let's get right back on track. They don't have that, and it's frustrating because they've spent this money, but it feels like 17, where you spent all this money, but you spent it on the wrong freaking guys.
Yeah, I mean, $60 million for a coach. You could have got Juan Soto for $60 million. That would have made a big difference right there. I mean, literally 5 wins this month, 5 wins last month, and you're competing for first place. It's small, incremental stuff, really. If you really look
2 to 3 wins, you're still in it, right?
Really?
Like, yeah,
change 2 to 3 wins every month, and you're back in it. You're back in second place. Yeah. That's how, that's why when you're talking about like, oh, you're going through a skid. Hey, I need you guys to stop this today. Mm-hmm. You need to change it today. Let's put a different streak. Let's go. If you have Swanson saying, oh, it's only June, bro, yeah, you obviously are not from a major market, because June, that means it's time to go. April, we know it's cold. May, everyone's getting their bearings together. June, it's time to play baseball and go and make that push and put your foot on someone else's throat. Oh, yeah, exactly. The NL is garbage all the way around. That's why they should be winning this division. Between the Sox and the Cubs, they're in the worst divisions in baseball, and they can't win.
Well, I think your point is, I think when you say it's only June, relax, to me that always screams in the background that they're fighting and they know how bad it is, and that's something you're trying to say to themselves to convince them that it's over. But that's a sort of statement that you have, you finish out June and then you start off July poorly. Just it's done.
Yeah, what are you going to say now? What are you going to say in July?
There's
nothing. Yeah, there's nothing to say, and at that point, there's a mutiny. And I was watching the pregame with Ozzy, and he's like, "These guys are not scoring and running and with runners in scoring position because they're trying to get 4 hits in one at bat.
Yes,
move the man over, pop fly, score the run. Simple baseball. Just go back to basics. Go back to Little League basics." Because that's exactly what you're playing like, Little League baseball players on both sides of town. Just figure it out, play fundamental baseball, and stop looking at the iPad for every single thing. Get your head out of the sand and start playing.
Well, sometimes before you ended that last part, I thought you were talking to my kids. Get your head out of that iPad, all right, and just go do something, right? Let's go.
Put Jose on. We'll put him on the big. We'll blow him up, and he could just go ahead and yell at your kids. Get out of the iPad.
Please, let me do that.
But real quick, just to end Cubs talk. It would be awesome if this team, because I really believe this team can do something. I really want to like this team, but again, I almost feel like it's desperation instead of logic. It's very much so like, hey, why aren't we figuring out a way to get back into the playoffs consistently? Like 2016 was almost 10 years ago. You got 2 more years and you got a decade. So let's stop being lovable losers again, and let's get back on track to consistency and winning. Let's go ahead and jump to the Bulls. Big night for the Bulls. Big night for young Chicago kid Matas Buzelis. Was drafted 11th overall from the G League Ignite. Quite honestly, never heard of him. I'm not gonna say I was happy. I was more looking for somebody that I feel like was more developed right away.
Yep.
And granted, like I said, I'm not going to take anything away from the kid. It was just a typical Bulls move to me. Maybe it could shut me down, shut me up, and prove me wrong. I love the work ethic. I love the passion, the fire. He talks shit. Good. I like that. I like a little bit of edge. But with me, with the Bulls, again, it goes back to what are you doing with this team, right? What is Josh Giddey going to be? What is Matas going to be? Even though we know Matas still needs to grow and develop. You still have questions with Pat Williams. Where has his development been? You're trying to go ahead and give him a contract. Overall, I feel like the Bulls are in this flux similar to, White Sox, Cubs,
all of our Chicago
teams. What are we doing here? But with Matas, I'll let you start, Cars, because you have this. You really like the kid. Well, Matas, how do you feel like? What do you think the Bulls are looking at this young man to become?
So I'll start off with this is the worst draft in the NBA since 2013 when Anthony Bennett went, right? It was terrible. You looked at that, the best player that remains, Victor Oladipo, and then you look at the rest of that top 10, and it's Otto Porter Jr., Cody Zeller, Alex Lynn, a whole bunch of guys that didn't develop. Yeah. And the first 2 picks are not good players to begin with. They didn't play at a high level in France, and they went 1 and 2. So what I like about the kid is, to me, his game ceiling is kind of almost I heard Avery Johnson say that his ceiling is like an Andrei Korolenko, right? So a guy who can really block the ball, he plays aggressive. If he works on the shooting stroke, like that's the ceiling. At 11 in a draft that you couldn't. Washington was the only team that was like, oh, we need more picks this year. Everybody else was like, get me the hell out of this draft. I don't want a soul. But you're right. He's got a bunch of, he's got to grow muscles. He's got to do this, but he's a great help defender. He's been really good at kind of coming across and getting blocks and getting rebounds. And so there are some traits there. He's got a good motor. There are some traits there at 11 that I really like. If the shooting comes along, which is my biggest problem with this pick, because we've said this with Dalen Terry, we've said this, like it took Kobe White 4 years to really come along and develop that shot to the level that it is now. That's the biggest concern. But the only thing I take out of it is I liked the Giddey move because I like Giddey more than I like anybody in this draft, to be frank. But you still got to move Levine. You still got to move Vooch. And I think the second that, what's his name, Paul George leaves L.A., you got to call up L.A. and you got to sign and trade DeMar there. Because this move makes sense. That draft pick makes sense. If you finally just rip this down to studs and say, look, we should have never offered Zach LaVine that contract ever. The guy has one trait and it's so streaky, it's not worth it. DeMar was a great pickup, but the guy deserves a chance to win. Re-signing Vuk last year was like, what? Why? You thought Lonzo Ball was going to be healthy, and everybody told you Lonzo Ball wasn't going to be healthy. So if you restart, your backcourt is Giddey, and it's, you probably do Giddey, Kobe, Pat Williams will come back. You've got a really solid rotation of players. Kobe's your alpha, which is a little concerning.
Yeah.
Giddey's ceiling is still really high. Matas has an incredibly high ceiling. The problem is that he's also got that incredibly low floor to go along with it.
Right.
But I think you just take your lumps now, and you want to tank for 2025 when the draft is much deeper. So get rid of everybody, maintain a top 5 pick, and if you're right on Matas being that type of player, maybe if he's just a really good bench guy, if he's a 13 to 15.7 board, like 1.5 blocks a game type of guy, that's great in this draft at 11, and hope that next year you've sucked enough this year that you can get someone next.
I couldn't agree more with everything that you said, Cars. But I'm looking at, the breakdown was everything that can improve on it would be shooting. I did watch some film on him when he was playing with the Ignite. He's able to dribble the ball, get out of traffic. He doesn't call for a pick. He can still drive to the hole. He does have a short 10-footer from the corner, little fadeaway that he can do. I saw that. He can, he's talking to smack. I love the grit that the kid has. That's great. We also made that trade for Giddey for Alex Caruso. You're telling me you couldn't pry a 2029 or 2027 pick from OKC? They have like 17 or 35 picks, whatever they have. They have many.
They have the entire 2029 first round at this point. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the word on the street was that they balked before the trade deadline for Caruso, where there was a deal for I think it was a top 10 pick or like a top 15 pick that was available plus a player. Like, I don't know if it was OKC, but that was what was said, that the Bulls had an opportunity to trade in season Alex Caruso and recoup a player and recoup a pick. But
Jerry Reinsdorf, and again, this is the other thing. Michael runs the Bulls, but Jerry was the one to say, you need to make the playoffs because I need that playoff money.
Yep.
Right. And so that's the thing, where as mad as I want to sit down and get at all the front office, in the end, we also know how they've got the ultimate wild card in not a good way, right? Like it's like, we're going to pull the purse strings from you anytime that we can. and you're going to have to show us that you earn it. It's awful. So yeah, you could have, but from all reports, it was Jerry that said, absolutely not. I need you guys to make the playoffs because I need some of that playoff revenue. And then you miss the playoffs.
And we're back to the same story, right? They did that when Rick Hahn wanted to hire, I always forget his name, the coach from Detroit.
AJ Hinch.
AJ Hinch. He wanted
Yes.
AJ Hinch and was talking to him and like, hey, I'm going to bring you on. And then they pull the rug right under Rick Hahn and say, nope, we hired Tony Lewis. He's like, wait a second, ain't I the GM?
Yeah.
So, and he's like, yeah, now you go in front of a press conference and explain this hire. He's like, I didn't hire him. It's the same thing. Hey, AK, we're going to bring you over. You know, you have a ton of experience with worldly players. You did well with Denver. And then he doesn't make a trade for 3.5 years. Like that, it makes no sense. Not one person trade in 3 years. And then you make a trade or you have a trade on the table to better your team for the future. And I love Alex Caruso. I really do. But another player that cannot stay on the court. I don't need him coaching from the bench. I need him on the floor because he's a difference maker.
And at 29 too, it's not going to get better.
No, it's not going to get better. You got to let him go. You get as much as you can from him. You know, just like we should treat this like in baseball. Like, he's 29. Yeah, he's got some miles on him. You know, he's a running back. He's been playing 4 or 5 years. He's got some miles on him. We'll get a younger kid.
Right.
That's what you've got to do. Yeah. And as much as like we in Chicago, we love our players, especially the gritty ones. We do not want to let them go, right? Mm-hmm. We've got to get away from that. We want to be the Dodgers. We want to be the Yankees. We want to be Boston, who's been, you know, in the playoffs and in the finals the last couple of years. Look what they did. They traded their big three, and look where they're at now. You know, they got Terry and everybody else on that team from those draft picks. I can guarantee you the next dynasty is going to be OKC. They're going to be able to.
Yeah.
There's going to be no more Golden State. The Lakers are going to be hot trash. It's going to be these random teams like New Orleans, who's got a good team now with the trade they just made with Atlanta. It's going to be OKC. It's going to be Minnesota. It might even be the Knicks. With, you know, they have the whole Villanova team up there now. Like you have a lot of these teams that are turning over, and the new guard is coming in.
Mm-hmm. The Spurs, if Wembanyama comes along, and I love their pick of that guard. They tanked on this year as well. The whole reason they traded the 8th pick for something in 2030 was because they also want to suck for next year and get a better player. Yeah. And still, you know, they'll be better, but not good enough to get over the hump.
They're doing the same thing when they had Duncan Robinson, and he ended up getting hurt, so that they tanked the whole season. Then they get
Tim.
Yeah, they got Tim, right?
Yep.
And they tanked with Tim, and then they got more players and more players. I mean, Pop is not an idiot. He's done this rebuild before. You know, he's had DeRozan on his team, so he knows how to, like, hey, I would send DeRozan down there.
Yeah, DeRozan's a guy that he wants to be here. You know, I think his daughter is a celeb in Chicago at the UC. I would want him to be here, but again,
not with Zach.
But it's not even.
I can't deal with Zach anymore. I can't watch him play anymore.
It's not even not with Zach. There's also the question of him as a player himself. Like Zach has to go. Zach needs to go. It's long overdue. But now you're thinking, like, where are we headed? Are we getting younger, or are we still trying to win with with Vooch and with DeMar and just go ahead and move on from a guy like Zach LaVine? I just don't see that as being smart. I think if you're going to go young, you got a guy like Giddey, a younger guy, playmaker. You're going to draft a guy like Matas. I don't know if he's going to be more developmental, if he's going to be going right away.
He'll probably be with the Windy City Bulls.
Right. But, you know, where is your direction? Like, again, where are you taking this team? Is it a youth movement? Is it a full on restart? Like, what is going on with the direction of Chicago Bulls? And that's why I was frustrated last night, because the biggest issue has been shooting. So I'm like, get a guy that's a ready shooter, that's an NBA. You know, I wouldn't say NBA like ready shooter, but a guy that's not a developmental guy and that can help your team right away. or even faster than Matas. And it's not taking anything away from him because he has all this other type of skill and talent. What is the biggest need? Shooting.
Right. Couldn't you drafted Terrence Shannon Jr., who you saw play in Illinois? Another kid that's a dog. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be a starter.
Should have been, if you needed a shooter, you should have drafted the kid that the Lakers got next, who was just on fire all over the place, right?
Dalton
Connect, yeah.
Connect, yeah. Yep.
But Ivan, to your point, you know what the most Bulls thing to do would be? They're going to say, we're going to tear this down. We're going to commit to the rebuild. They trade Zach. They trade Vooch. And then they would re-sign DeMar. And I not that I don't hate DeMar, but they've always done this thing where they've been like, we're rebuilding, but we're also going to add these older guys and keep them here just in case. So if we start winning, it goes back to Jerry. If we start winning a little bit more than we intended to, I've got some veterans that I know we could do that. So maybe we can sneak into the playoffs. They're always hedging their bets. After the Jerry debacle, the Jerry Krause debacle with the Twin Towers and all of that, Jerry has never allowed really a complete teardown and rebuild, ever. It's always 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Because if I get the Eastern Conference has been dog shit for decades. So if I just hover around 50% winning, I have a chance at the playoffs and some of that sweet, sweet playoff payroll.
Yeah, he's actually said this on record. He's like, the most exciting time is when we're chasing to get in. When fans don't know if we're going to make the playoffs or not, we're super excited. We might make the playoffs, and that excitement brings people to the UC. That's all he cares about. That is all he cares about. Just staying 500, maybe a little bit better. But yeah, and to Lawrence's comment, yeah, KC did talk about Zach playing with Giddey and how they would mesh very well together. No, it doesn't. You've got Kobe and Zach, who are two ball dominant people. That's why they don't use Vooch very well. They use Vooch for the first 10 minutes of in the first quarter, and then they stop going to him.
What have we done with every post guy? Same thing.
First
quarter.
Yep.
We're gonna set this up. We're gonna leverage this. We're gonna do this. All right, second quarter. Fuck all of that. Let's just figure something. We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it a different way. You're like, but it worked. Yeah, that's why we're not gonna. They'll never expect that we're not gonna go back to it. That's how we're winning here right now.
Yeah, Lauren.
It's brutal.
Yeah,
it makes no sense. Vooch should be averaging 30 points a night.
Honestly, the game should be going through Vooch, but you got the ego factor, and I always thought Zach LaVine was going to be more of a leader and take on a leadership role. Boy, was I wrong, I guess. It's more of a me.
He's never matured.
Exactly. Perfectly said. Never matured to be that type of guy. Congratulations. You got on an all-star team on a fucking, on a whim, on a 1-year wonder, but your lack of consistency as a player on defense, especially, it's concerning, man. It's not only concerning, it's not, in my opinion, shouldn't be allowed on this team. Like, you shouldn't have that going on where it's like, it's me, regardless of what, everybody else is trying to do, where the focus is. It's been a disappointment, the Zach LaVine experiment.
I mean, you got him because you thought he was going to be a star. And unfortunately, it cost you Markkanen, who has become the player that you always wanted to be. And I think, Jose, to your point, he did have a post game. You could have gotten it to get him in early. And so it's the biggest insult to us that we've got to watch that and watch Zach. And what is Zach, like Kobe White, his growth and what he did, that's been very visible year over. Io, you've seen his growth. Where has Zach's development been? He
hasn't. I remember when down the stretch, he's getting the ball picked out because he's dribbling until there's 2 seconds left. And it was the same thing with Kobe. And then the next year they come back, and Kobe has been noted that he's been working with the coaches and working on his handles because, ball is out. So he has to play point guard, even though he's a shooting guard. But he improved his handles, and we saw that. Then the next year, he improved on his shooting, and we saw that. Again, there is no growth for Zach. He's hurt all the time. And when he wasn't hurt, he didn't want to get traded to Detroit. So he said, yeah, I'm going to go have surgery and I'm going to let you guys do whatever you got to do. I'm not going to Detroit.
And go ahead. No, I think to the comment on the screen, the hard part is I don't necessarily have a problem with Billy. Again, it's a really poorly constructed roster that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You know, you look at this team and you're like, where are you going to get your shooting from? Where, you know, Caruso's can shoot. He can't stay healthy. You've got Zach, he can shoot, can't stay healthy. You know, you got Dalen Terry, he can't stay, you know, he can't shoot. You've got this guy, you've got Pat Williams, who, God, if Pat Williams ever had an ounce of the confidence that Zach LaVine did, he would be an all-star every time. He can shoot, but he doesn't want it. So you've got this weird island of misfit toys configuration of a roster. I think you're right. Like, they should focus on Vooch more, but it's still not winning basketball because the other players all the way around just aren't good enough. And it's what happens in the NBA when you're constantly drafting between 10 and 20. You're not bad enough to get the really good players, and you clearly missed out on Halliburton the year that you selected Pat Williams. So let's say that. But I really look at this as like, that's just a shit roster. I don't know how you win. I don't know how you win more when you've got to trot out these guys. Yeah. Oh God, Shane, go block that guy from this chat right now.
We're gonna block. He's in timeout for 5 minutes.
Perfect.
I really think right now AK should be like, Atlanta, I see you just traded DeJounte Murray to over to New Orleans. How much for Zach? How much,
Sacramento Kings.
That's another one.
He'd be a great compliment to Fox.
Yeah.
We'll take Huerter back and Harrison Barnes. The deal's working the cap. Go.
Yeah.
Go.
I really think it's Zach that doesn't run Billy's offense when it's there. It's literally the veterans. At the end of the game, yes, I want DeMar to have the ball. I want him to be the closer. That's fine. I'm fine with that. But for the first 3.5 quarters, run the fucking offense that Billy wants you to run. It's not that hard.
Well, Zach LaVine's
it's a simple offense, though. It's so simple. The problem is that we have no shooters.
Yeah.
Zach LaVine is basically a opera singer warming up. His whole offense is me, and that's it. He's still trying to prove to everyone that he's a number one option. He still has this chip that he should be. And guess what? He is not. He cannot create for others. The only time he creates for others is when he shot 48 times in a row and he pump fakes and finally passes and no one is expecting it. They're like, holy crap, that man passed. Who knew? It doesn't work. You have to take the ball out of his hands. And to Jose's point, if DeMar isn't here and Kobe and Zach are, the last minute, I'd rather have the ball in Kobe's hands.
100%.
Yeah. No doubt. No doubt. The way that Kobe, like you said, Kobe's development, I was critical of Kobe too. It's the same way I've been with Pat. Like, why haven't you developed? What is going on with your coaching staff and and the development of your players? Like, why can't they grow with your team once they come into this organization? But to my surprise, like, something clicked with Kobe. I don't know if it was extra work. I don't know if he's got, other coaches on the side helping him. I don't know what, but he's really earned that respect from me.
Oh, big time.
Because it's like, you could see it. Like, he has control when the ball's in his hands. You're comfortable with him having the ball in his hands, not only from the sidelines, but when you're sitting on your damn couch watching on TV, you're like, all right, Kobe has the ball. I feel fine with that.
He can make a play for himself, or he will give it up to somebody else.
Right.
Zach, I always feel like, is going to be that Kukoc versus Pippen at the end. Like, we draw up the play for DeMar, and he's like, "I'm out. I don't even want to. I don't even want to see."
He's not interested. Yeah, 100%.
Sits there like,
yeah.
Sell it.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's so bad. It's so bad. Yeah. I mean, hey, Zach, could go maybe even to Golden State. They're losing, a couple people over there. They have space. The Lakers need some help. Pick up the phone and start calling everybody. We don't want this guy here. I know it's going to be, low trade value. I don't care. Give me a 2030 pick. Trade him for a sixth grader right now. That's essentially what it is. Trade him for a sixth grader. Let's go.
I mean, like, to your point, go to Golden State. I'll take Wiggins back. I don't like Wiggins' contract, but you know what? He's done in 1 or 2 more years, and then he's done.
We'll eat that.
Call it, and just walk away from it. If you guys all the time you get to these deals and you're like, there's no way that player can be traded, and for whatever reason in the NBA, someone will just go crazy, like and you're like, why on earth are you willing to pick up this guy who is garbage? And they all have this irrational confidence, like, no, he won't be garbage with us. And spoiler alert, they're always still garbage with you.
Otto Porter Jr. He made a career out of it.
But just like that, Wiggins, one good year, parlayed it, done, done. And that's what they just you gotta make a change sometimes for change's sake. And I hope to God this is the time.
No, I totally agree. I think, to wrap up Bulls talk, I want to know, like I said, I would love to know the direction. I'm not gonna. Yeah, I'm not gonna belittle our draft pick, our newest Bull, Matas Buzelis. Was it
Buzelis?
Buzelis.
I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't want to. Lithuanian kid from Chicago. Was very emotional, very excited, and like I said, he's from Chicago. There's nothing I could do but root for him. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing I could like. It's to me.
His interview was fantastic too. You could tell it means something to him.
It was awesome, and like immediately I was like, I hope he proves me wrong. But my beef isn't with Matas. My beef is with the Bulls and the lack of transparency with the direction that the franchise is going, because there's Bulls fans that are, including us three on the screen, that are like, when are we going to get out of this abyss and come back and be relevant again in the NBA? We'll go ahead and pivot over to the WNBA. We'll touch on hockey, and then we'll get to the big talk with the Bears at the end. But the WNBA, let's just be real, the two biggest names right now, Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, just like it was in college. Two women who are probably going to be going back and forth their entire careers as basketball players. The incredible, I wouldn't say hostility. I would say hostility.
It is.
The hostility towards Caitlin Clark, and the reason, in my opinion, being is because of the spotlight, because the focus is on her, and you have all these other stars who feel like they weren't given as much, shine, weren't given as much respect. And to me, I feel like this, the NIL probably has something to do with it a little bit, and not necessarily for the reasons that, like, it's strictly jealousy reason. Like this girl's got a bag already. She's already made her money. Right. She's already made her money. She's coming into the league. She does things. She has NBA players, impressed with what she does. There's something to her game that's different, not knocking any other woman down or anything like that. But something about Clark's game is different. Now, when it comes to, playing the games, right? You see time and time again, Clark, hard fouls, teammates, even her teammates, I have questions about whether or not they respect her as
jealousy.
A player. Jealousy, and also questions about her coach. I feel like her coach, to be honest, like Caitlin Clark is on a very bad team. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. She's on a very bad team. And I feel like, and also with Angel Reese and, Cardozo, they're on a team that's young and coming up too. But I feel like with all that's coming, it's on top of the plate of Caitlin Clark, the vitriol, the aggressiveness, not only on the court, but off the court, verbally, everywhere. I'm sure she's getting. With all that's on her plate, how do we expect her teammates and her coach to sit by and not really be as vocal? And I know Caitlin downplays it, but there's a point in time where you as a coach, even, or as a teammate, need to be like, this shit needs to stop. This shit cannot continue. And there's just not that on her own, even on her own team. Yep. So, my question to you guys is, with Caitlin Clark and the rivalry with Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, right? Do you feel like it's more media driven, or do you feel like there is straight up animosity between Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark?
I think that, to me, the animosity is one way, and that's Angel to Caitlin. This is one of these things that I hate, that we have to kind of tread lightlier on than we want to. But Caitlin has done all the right things, has asked all the right things. She's not sitting there begging for this fame. She's not asking for it. To your point, she's been to the WNBA equivalent of Steph Curry, right? Like, no other woman is coming in and hitting three, just inside the half court line, 3-pointers in the WNBA. It's not a thing. And so there's a lot. The jealousy showed up 2 years ago in the NCAA finals when Reese was doing the hand in the face to her, and Clark didn't react. And if you remember, people went after Angel Reese for doing it, and Caitlin was the one that defended her and said she has every right to do that. So, like, leave her be.
Ironically,
so I think
Caitlin's offended her at every turn, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And continue to have her back. I think the hard part for this is Aja Wilson is by far the best player in the WNBA. Mm-hmm. But if you asked the average person who the best player in the WNBA is right now, who are they going to say? Caitlin Clark.
Right.
And if you take the reverse of this, like when Jordan did this, or when Curry started to shoot these threes, what did the other players were okay with it because it meant more money to them. It brought in more TV revenue, more merchandising. This lines all your pockets. And so where Reese is really the focal point of all of this animosity, feels like it's almost the entire league, including her own team, that is just like, we hate her. And, she has stood up for her players, not defending her. She has stood up for Angel Reese and those fouls, like that hard foul that she took. She's like, I think she was just making a basketball move. It was, but she still was like, I don't think it, people were like, she went after her. No, she's like, in the theme of it, that's what happened. Yeah, she hit me in the head, but that's not what it was. Yeah. She's done all the right things. No one in this league is standing up for her, which is absolutely absurd. And if you're the Las Vegas Aces and you have 5 women who are on the Olympic team, your team is so just loaded. And the only time you really have to move to the bigger stadium is when Caitlin Clark is the one that is coming in. You should embrace her because that's better for you. Don't take it personally that nobody else wanted to watch you. I have sometimes problems watching Angel Reese in the ugliness of her shots and her layups and her hooks. She plays
definitely a
game.
Post player. Definitely a post player.
Yes. But she's like a 70s post player, right? Like, just it doesn't look natural, though the stats are there. Mm-hmm. I just don't understand why they are embracing this. It's such a thing. The WNBA has to figure this out, because get mad at the fans, sure. Don't get mad at the player who's not doing anything other than playing the game.
It's really funny because it's probably like a 3 to 4, even 5-prong situation. She's coming in with NIL money, right? And you're looking at it. If she were to come into your job making 25 more grand and has less credentials than you do. Like, I've been here 10 years and she's making more and I have a degree. And yes, do have that jealousy. But she transcends the game. She's walking in, transcending the game. Steph Curry wasn't like this when he walked into the NBA. It took about 2 to 3 years for him to get his footing and be able to shoot the way he put in the work. She's coming in like this. She's coming in, changing the game. You're going from 8,000 seat arena to now filling a 20,000 seat arena. Mm-hmm. This is all revenue that, again, this will be shared. The WNBA has not been profitable any year in its existence. So the fact that she is changing this, making it a global game, people are watching when she comes into town. You should embrace it. She is very much, how I want to say, she's got the Larry Bird killer mentality.
Yes.
But she has that Michael Jordan, Kobe, LeBron James mentality. I'm going to say things that are going to make me calm the situation down. I'm going to be a professional because I'm protecting not only my image, but I'm protecting the league. Then essentially it's going to make sponsors we're going to look good in front of sponsors. We don't want to look like hoodlums, like the 70s and 80s NBA that no one watched, and that's why it was pre-taped, because it was so dirty and nasty that you couldn't promote that kind of thing. It was, it's like watching WWE. I mean, at least we know that's fake, right? The result is fake, but but what you have here is a problem. The media is making it about black and white. It's making it about like, oh, they played against each other over and over and over, and they hate each other. They really probably don't even hate each other. They respect each other's game.
I think Angel hates her. I think Angel. Let's say this.
She beat her in her championship. What does she have to hate her for,
bro? Because she's the one that's getting all the kudos.
Exactly.
She's the one that they said, look at people coming to watch. I'm the other reason that people are coming to watch the WNBA, and there's absolute truth into that, right? Yeah. The Sky ticket sales have been up because there's some excitement around that. But it does seem like she's come from a point of privilege versus the other girl. She hasn't necessarily had some of the hard upbringing, it comes across like they feel like this has been handed to her. Mm-hmm. That they've handed. It was started with Diana Taurasi's speech before she was even drafted. And by the way, Caitlin Clark, her rookie years, shooting better than Taurasi and matching her scoring, and is passing, like her assist numbers are better. Yeah. But everybody came in with this point. Taurasi, Sue Bird was the person before it was Taurasi. Taurasi's now handed this thing on. These were all marquee players. No one ever has moved the needle for this league until this.
Right.
And you've got to accept it.
And, because I want to wrap up because I want to get to Bears talk and then close out a little early. I love the rivalry. I love that, it's great for the league. It is fantastic for the league, especially because they're coming in as rookies and you have that career-long rivalry. Now you have two careers with this rivalry pitted in the middle of both of them. And I enjoy it, but I want it to be more about the game and not about some personal fucking vendetta about who's getting more money than here. Why isn't the camera on me more? Why don't I get more attention? That's where I feel like the issue is truly lying. The attention and possibly the money as well. That's kind of where I sit. So hopefully, like you had pointed to, hopefully it doesn't get to that unmarketable point where you're seeing these non-basketball type fouls.
The Kennedy Carter one, right? Like that's old school.
Right.
Yeah. But since that point, she's been balling. And so she's been scoring about 15 to 20 points a game. She's literally been playing very well for them. I think the problem with the Sky, it's a lot of marketing, horrible marketing. You also have 4 teams that are above 5 teams that are above 500 out of the 12. And that's
and the Aces, which is the most loaded team,
they're 9-6 though.
Is barely exactly there. So if that's supposed to be your best player, Kelsey Plum is supposed to be one of your best players,
right?
And you're only 9-6. Mm-hmm. That doesn't bode well for your league at all.
Yeah, but I mean, the Lynx and the Storm are very, very good, and so
Yes.
the Liberty and the Sun. Those are 4 very good teams. And then, I mean, it's hard. They also lost, Candace Parker. She retired.
Yeah.
That's a big piece that they lost. So, it's
Good
exciting.
point.
I watch the WNBA and I try to get to as many Sky games as possible because it is a fun time. But I know we got to transition to Chicago Bears.
No, definitely. Like I said, it's a rivalry that I hope finds its way back to basketball.
If this could be the equivalent of Bird Magic
Yes.
or Isaiah and MJ or
Yep.
something along those lines, it's so much better for that league.
Yeah.
It
Oh yeah.
You need
sells.
captivating stories. You do need that. You need that.
Absolutely.
All right.
Talking about captivating stories, we'll go, and we're going to talk about the team. Don't worry, we're going to talk about the team, but switching over to the Bears, us being, Chicago land, Chicago guys, I feel like this one, it kind of really hits home, right? The idea of the Bears and Kevin Warren being the captain of this whole ship, wanting to go and stay on the lakefront, have this huge development made. We all saw the concepts. We all saw the idea for Soldier Field, the plans for a complete overhaul of infrastructure and changing big, huge parts of downtown Chicago. I always thought it was a full of crap type of proposal, but then they had that press conference, and I was just like, this is the most like ridiculous type of ask somebody could ask a city that's to be quite honest, broke and doesn't have a clue like the rest of the like our sports teams. Broken doesn't have a clue. And I feel like, as a Chicagoan, it was a slap in the face because you came in here, you brought in, you brought
Right.
the Lord into this. You know what I mean? You brought the Lord into, and look, it's fine to go ahead and pray over something and meditate on it and focus. Yeah, that's perfectly fine. But this felt like I was being like this felt like you were asking God to go ahead and send these tax dollars to the lakefront so you could build a stadium that wouldn't benefit any of the people that paid for it. And it was just like I said, it was so unsettling for me. It bothered me a lot. But now we have this pivot back to the place where I, would hope they go, to Arlington Heights. In your opinion, do you think Kevin Warren really has a grasp, or that, that I know he has the focus and the drive, but do you think he has the grasp on the, the pull and the push for this, or is he still trying to find a way to make this work and just trying to fit pieces together wherever he could find?
Jose, you want to go first?
I really think that he didn't understand how the political landscape is here, especially in Minnesota. They wanted the stadium in downtown, that there's nothing else to do there. As far as for Chicago, you can't tear down a national monument status or whatever, Soldier Field is considered. You also have the Friends of the Park that do not allow you to build anything. If they didn't let George Lucas build something there that he was going to pay for the entire thing, you think they're going to let someone say, hey, we're going to take so much city money and we're going to let you build here and destroy this and make it parks and let everyone use it? Come on. We know no one's going to be able to use it. There's going to be like 4 bathrooms and kids running around, and that'll be it. And you know how hard it is to get to Soldier Field now? Imagine when they do that. And you also want them to restructure this, what is it, Lakeshore Drive, and change some roads.
Yeah,
and
Canal,
then you got to
Lakeshore Drive. Yeah.
Yeah, you're changing roads. First of all, it took about 12 years to fix the Kennedy, and they're still working on it. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. Every one of the Chicago teams and every piece of Chicago is under construction every summer. Okay, it's as simple as that. And there's no way in hell they would make their timeline and it warns like, hey, you know what? Every minute, every day that you wait, it costs more money. Well, no shit, Sherlock. No shit. Everything is union here. Everything has got to be by this book. You know, it has got to be bids have to go out, and you got to go through that whole process. It's gonna take forever, just like the Kennedy. Go to Arlington Heights. You already bought the land. You already tore down the racetrack. You've got the acreage. Just start building. Pay the school district off whatever you need to pay them. You're gonna make it tenfold. Very easy. NCAA, WrestleManias, concerts, bowl games. Like you can house everything in one location. You can probably even build another arena, like kind of like the size of the Allstate Arena, to just do concerts on that side. If you don't want to do something big there, you're gonna have a sports book. You're gonna have a hotel. Put a fucking water park for all I care. I don't care. Fill the area up with something to do that can be used 365 days a year and bring in revenue. So that way the Bears are no longer a mom and pop shop.
Yeah.
That's it.
I want to golf clap you because I think that's really it. Because I think you nailed it with him not understanding politically how much of a no-go. If I had my druthers and I could snap my fingers, absolutely the field would stay on the lakefront in the city. Absolutely. There is nothing like it to sit there and go. But if I have to sit on 55 not moving for an hour to get into Lakeshore Drive to finally try to place the park, like it defeats the entire purpose of the whole thing. And so I think he, in his heart of hearts, wanted to do that. I know there's always been this uproar. So I think he gave it that shot. But the second that all the politicians were like, do you understand? We're not going to vote for any tax raises, and you still owe from the hotel tax that failed. You're not going to get those sort of things. We've tried this. Sorry, go find something else. And it's not like the city is sitting on anything that they could be like, here, let us help you out. Let us do this. Like,
if Daly couldn't put the stadium up there, right? He had to get the revamp and he had to sell that. And then on his way out, he sold the entire city because he didn't give a fuck. He's like,
and he sold all the toll roads.
Toll roads.
He sold everything. So there's no income coming into the city. So there's no reason that you and I should continue to pay for a stadium that we have no access to. It's as simple as that. When the roads are still not paved, when crime is fucking out of control in the city.
We're housing families in potholes on Lakeshore Drive. They're so bad. And we're going to go fix all this. Get out. No. It was never realistic. And so everybody that got all upset, I said, I don't think about this until a single shovel hits the ground. It means absolutely nothing to us. I think the only positive of doing that is it pushed the Arlington Heights politicians to be like, maybe, they've at least started the process. They might be able to grease a few skids and make this happen. We held out for the best of the best. Now we got to kind of come more to a middle ground and get this work through. I think Arlington is the best situation because if I could put up, just like you go to Foxborough and there are hotels and restaurants that line it and you can book a night stay the night of the game, walk. If your wife doesn't want to go, there's shopping and all these other things that she could hang around by the stadium. But it draws people there. People will forget about the stadium the second they sit in a up-to-date dome with like crazy screens lining all over that.
No bathroom lines. You owe me a Coke, Jinx. You owe me a Coke.
You're not freezing in the winter. Like, you're not gonna. I don't have to go watch the Bears choke to the Packers in an NFC Championship game when it's negative 20 degrees outside. That's a thing to me. It's never made sense.
No, you're right.
It's wild because it's why can't the Bears, one of the best team in the NFL, right? And we're being biased, right? Why can't we have one of those nice stadiums like SoFi or the Dallas Stadium in Arlington, AT&T Stadium, or
Jerry World, yeah.
right, Jerry World, right? Why can't
Even
we?
the Raiders Stadium is incredible for where it's at.
The Raiders Stadium, exactly? There's no bathroom lines. That's what I heard for people that I've known have gone there. They're like, we can find a bathroom and concessions anywhere we want, and there's no lines.
No, the thing that concerned me was our kindred spirits to me are always Buffalo Bills fans. And Buffalo is building a smaller stadium, not in a dome, as they are rebuilding they are actually shrinking the amount of seats that they have available in their new stadium plan. And if you were going to stay in the city, you saw that they were barely moving up. The Bears are 32nd in seating, the amount of seats available for a football game.
Yeah.
For the third largest market, and for as bad as that team is, what games are always sold out? And now that you have Caleb Williams coming, like that sellout streak, prices are already ridiculous for next year. Why on earth would you build a smaller footprint just to stay in the city, just to stay in the lake, when you own all this property and you could go build? I'm not saying you need to go build an Ann Arbor 100,000 person stadium, but you should be over 70. You should be close to 80, coming in and being like, we're going to be 65-ish, 66. No, it would have been the worst waste of money ever.
You've got to go 80 max. You've got to go to Dana. Hey, Dana, we need an event here every 2 months. Oh
yeah.
You need wrestling. All the wrestling companies, you have to come. I mean, I doubt WWE because they have a contract with Allstate, and that's a better building for that. But whatever. You've got to have boxing. Hey, Dan's in or Top Rank. We need fights here at least once a month. You've got to have that building rocking.
Well, you'd get a WrestleMania. You'd get a WrestleMania.
Oh God, I would be there.
Oh yeah,
so fast for a WrestleMania. Oh my God.
And now that it's it's a 4-day event. You got SmackDown, then it's 2 days of WrestleMania, then you have Raw. I mean, and they do like access, like kind of like you get to meet the wrestlers, all that stuff the week before. Like that is billions going into revenue. My biggest thing is that Arlington Heights is being greedy with the school district. You're already a well-off top 2, top 3 well-off school districts in the state. This is coming from an educator. I know that. You have all the top facilities, the top schools to go to, top districts, and you want more money. You're just being greedy.
I mean, I would be on that.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that the figure that they're asking for is being
right.
I'm not saying not giving them money, but just
But I would
meet somewhere, negotiate.
Right. Yeah.
Right. You say, hey, you know what, Chicago Bears, you're gonna be funding all of our sports team, making sure our facilities are up to date, and nothing every 5 years, revamp everything. You hit them there, and you say, okay, you got to hold camps with us. Bam. It's only 4 or 5 schools as far as the high schools, 4 or 5, maybe 6 schools around that area. You can do that. It'll be a tax write-off. It's going to a school. It's a tax fucking write-off. Let's go. Had Johnny's beef yesterday, first time. Someone was watching the bear.
But I agree. It should always be in Arlington Heights. Whether or not they're being greedy, find like Carr said, find a number, figure it out, because this is going to benefit. Something. Yeah, this is going to benefit everybody, like not only the Bears but Arlington Heights. Will it benefit Chicago? I still think it will still benefit Chicago. People are going to want to go to Chicago, especially if they're coming in to visit. Maybe they don't want to stay, in Arlington Heights to go see the Bears game. Maybe they want to go ahead and stay at downtown, maybe even a Rosemont. I think that multiple places will benefit with Bears going out there and building their paradise, building, even if they have hotels on the prop, building shops, whatever, they would
keep the metro going 24 hours a day. Keep that metro line going 24 hours a day.
Yes.
Do you know what I truly hope they build? I truly hope they build
a monorail.
A monorail for sure. But if they built almost kind of a Bears museum, like we always see this stuff as they come down when new players come down the hallway and how well that's done.
Mm-hmm.
But if you build like this thing of like memorabilia from Hallis
Yes.
to Peyton and Butkus, and you build that on-prem, so when you go to a game, you can sit through and maybe buy an extra ticket and walk through this museum and see the history and feel the history and be playing all the theme songs that we know and love. But really, it would really help us draw in the younger generation that we've sort of lost because we haven't won enough.
Mm-hmm.
But if you surround them in like how important we are and how good it was and how we're hoping to get back there, and look at all these incredible players, if you add that on, that to me means a whole lot more than having the stadium in the city and on the lakefront.
If you Jose, the statues outside of Wrigley, how they have them
Mm-hmm.
lined up and everything now. In my eyes, I could see it like you were talking about, Carl. You're walking up. There's Hallis, there's Peyton, there's Butkus, there, you know what I'm saying? There's Buffon, there's whoever they want to build this. They need multiple statues of these great. I could see like right now the walk up would be
the most Hall of Famers.
Yeah, the most Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
It's your Hall of Famers should at least have a bust in your building, at least. You know what I mean?
You should have like if you go do that, they have their whole locker room set up with a jersey, the helmet that they used to wear. They've got all of them autographed, like Red Grange, everybody. Stack them up. Show the differences in the jerseys year to year. Show all of that. Like, sometimes we embrace the history of when we were good too much, but we don't enjoy and embrace the history of just what this franchise has meant and all the incredible players. Butkus and Sayers played from some shit teams.
Yep.
But God, did you love to watch? Like, you watch clips of those guys.
Mm-hmm.
Embrace that as your history, that you've had guys and incredible names. To your point, nobody has more Hall of Famers. That is, embrace all of that and allow people to understand why us 40-plus-year-old men are super engaged and excited about this football team that has not won enough.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. And I think it's a good spot to jump off and wrap things up. With Bears talking, obviously we got, TTNL every week, and Bears season is upon us, even though we're kind of, we're in that end of the dry spell, I call it, of the off season.
It's getting there.
It's getting there, right? I feel like the Chicago Bears, wherever, whatever they decide to put, build their new stadium, the future is bright. And, honestly, I hope that this team, I hope that one guy in particular, Caleb Williams, can go ahead and lead us to the promised land. But not only that, like, lead us into our new home with respect.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Don't buy a Ferrari and then you're letting, somebody that has 10 DUIs go ahead and just
drive stick.
Yeah. And I'm talking about the Bears as a whole being the
don't trade for Jay Cutler and don't give him an offensive line for the entire time.
Exactly.
Right? That's that sort of thing.
That's exactly perfectly said. Like, let's get this rolling. Let's do it the right way. Christen the stadium well, have a team that's worth a damn, so you could have more and more people show up to your games, because that, I guarantee you, will be an issue. If the Bears aren't winning, you won't see people taking that long ass ride to Arlington Heights. And it's not as long as you think with the Metro, but it's still a hike. It's still a trek from Chicago to Arlington Heights. So they better be winning. But anyways, guys, I appreciate both of you. It was so much fun talking Chicago sports with you guys. I'm glad you guys are the first two guests that I've had on the show. It was very fun. Yeah, I know.
Stuck at Shane.
Shane wouldn't have done a better job than Carstensen.
Of course not.
It just wouldn't have been as fun. But anyway, I'm gonna let you guys go. I appreciate you. Cars, let everybody know where they can find you.
You can find me Twitter at Bears Nerd. I live up to it all the time. We'll start picking up more as football season's around the corner, though.
No doubt. Jose?
You can find me at Big Z _606 Media Group on all my handles, all my socials, and all that stuff. And every Monday live on every platform, because it's the True Chicago Sports Fans podcast. So join us. Ivan's been a guest host, and a guest all the time. So we talk a little bit about everything, just like we do here.
Yeah, definitely. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate you. Go check them out at Bears Nerd. Go check out Big Z at Big Z _606 Media Group. Thank you guys once again for joining me. Inaugural show. I had goosebumps. I'm not gonna lie. I had butterflies to start because I didn't know where we were gonna go. But I'm glad you guys were there to help me out. So have a good night.
Thanks for having me.
We'll see you guys later. Definitely have you guys back.
All right.
Later. Guys, that was Big Z and Cars from TTNL and True Chicago Sports Fans podcast. I had a blast tonight. Hopefully, like I said, I'm not going to do – well, actually, I didn't mention this before, but I'm going to mention it now. I'm going to have this weekend off, kind of put some things together, make it a little more polished up here on Local Sports Tonight. So we'll have, different backgrounds, things like that. Like I said, this is purely winged, and I felt like I needed to get something else going, start talking more sports. Again, it probably won't be guests every week, but you'll definitely have me giving my opinion about everything Chicago sports. So thank you for joining me. We'll see you guys next week. Monday night, again, 8 o'clock. I'll be back with with Local Sports Tonight. I'm Ivan Vargas. I appreciate you guys for joining me. Thank you to my guests. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to Local Sports Tonight with Ivan Vargas. I will see you guys later. Peace.